Okay. It is April 8th, 2021. We are here at open session. And the school board, North Clackamas school board members are here. 6 out of the 7 are able to attend in person. And Director Perez is also here online, just so everyone's aware on why we have masks on, and he does not. He is in a facility away from us. So welcome everyone. Welcome to our open session here, and we're excited to have you all talk and listen to all of the great information we have today. We will begin with our native land acknowledgement. Director Bauer, are you ready to recite that?
Yes, thank you, Chair Ford. We acknowledge the land on which we sit and which we call the North Clackamas School District. It rests on the traditional indigenous lands and village sites of the native peoples of the Kalapuya, Chinook, Malala, and Clackamas. We take this opportunity to offer gratitude for the ability to learn, work, and be a community on this land. We offer thanks to the original caretakers of this region. We recognize the historic policies of colonization, genocide, relocation, and assimilation that affected Indigenous and Native families, both past, present, and that will affect those in the future, and honor the resilience, revitalization of our Indigenous and Native communities. We pay our respects to the elders, both past and present, who have been stewards of this land throughout the generations.
Thank you, Director Bauer. Moving right into our first agenda item, which is approving the minutes from March 11th, 2021. What I will do, Orlando, is I will watch you. You are in my sight. So I'll let you raise your hand or not during the votes, and then we can move forward. All in favor of approving the minutes from March 11th, please. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Yes, we do need a motion. Open the floor for a motion.
McVeigh, move approval.
Excellent.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Are we ready to vote? Do we need discussion? Seeing none. All in favor of approving the minutes from March 11, 2021, please raise your hand. I see all hands raised, including mine, unanimously approved. Moving on to consent agenda, open the floor for a motion.
This is Director Fatal, move approval of consent agenda that includes employment changes and policy revisions.
Director Way seconds.
It's been properly approved and probably moved and approved. Second, sorry guys. Do we need any discussion on this consent agenda item? Seeing none. All in favor, please raise your hand. I see you, Orlando. Excellent. Unanimously, we have approved the consent agenda. Moving into our community request. Next thing on our agenda, I will read the statement from Code BDDH, adopted 6/19/86. Anyone wishing to speak before the board, either as an individual or as a member of a group, may do so by following the district's guidelines for public comment. These printed guidelines are available at each board meeting. Any individual desiring to speak will submit their name or the group, if any, that is being represented, and the speakers should give their name and the group, if any, that is represented, and should limit their presentation to 3 minutes. Time may be extended at the discretion of the board chair. Speakers may offer objective criticisms of the district's operations and programs that are of a concern to them. The board is restricted from hearing and will not consider complaints regarding any individual district staff member or any person connected with the district. I also will, because all of our presentations and community requests are not in person, they are still online. So you have 3 minutes to present. When you get to 1 minute, I will put this up so you know where you are in your time frame. We have, one this evening? There's 2. Oh, we have 2. Okay, excellent. Are they ready to rock and roll, Cindy?
I believe both have been admitted to the room. We'll start with Julie. Julie, go ahead and unmute your mic and you may begin.
I'm here again. After each meeting, I tell myself I won't speak again. I don't really enjoy it, but I keep doing intakes for families in crisis, and they can't manage CDL and they can't manage hybrid. I mean, I'm there because they're having a hard time managing their life, honestly, and so to expect them to do an education on top of that, it's almost impossible. Whenever I leave their apartment, I think of the board, and I think that if you could see the things I see and hear the things I hear, if you had to walk out of their apartment, closing the door, knowing that they were going to stay in those conditions day in, day out, maybe getting kids back into school wouldn't be such a fight. You would get them back into full-time in-person instruction, back where they can have stability, mental health help, physical activity, food, kind and reasonable human interaction, a break from the toxic stress that they are under every day, and an actual education. These kids are having their lives altered by schools not providing them full-time instruction in person. They're children. They are children who are under toxic stress. Their brains do not process stress like adults. The stress becomes embedded in their body and they carry it with them. They will carry it with them for the rest of their lives. You've had it in your power to help these kids and get them back into school. We've started hybrid, but that schedule does not work for most of my families. That it's impossible for them to manage 2.5 hours, 3 hours twice a week, and then to try and do online school the rest of the week. You now have another opportunity to help some of the kids in North Clackamas. RSSL has changed again, and the recent changes make full-time instruction for all much more attainable. I want to ask that all grades have the ability to go back to school full-time this year. Thanks. I'm afraid I know the answer to K-5, but I would really, really like for that to happen if possible. I think providing full-time in-person education for all students is something that we can't make excuses for anymore. While full-time in-person for K-5 is trickier, middle school and high school should be more straightforward, and we should get those kids back into school. The families I support need full-time instruction to happen. Please do your job and provide all kids with the best education possible. Please allow moms, sometimes dad, but let's face it, mainly moms, the ability to go back to work. Please help older siblings not to have to be full-time babysitters, all the while trying to keep on top of their school. Please get teachers out of hybrid. Please do whatever you can to get kids back into school full-time this year, and then make an announcement about next year very soon. Let families know and plan. Give kids some hope. Other districts are already making announcements regarding school next year, and I know Chair Ford has told us not to compare ourselves to other districts, which I appreciate. And she's also used the analogy of this whole situation being like a newborn child, which I also appreciate. But I'll tell you, if you had a child who was 13 months old, yes, we're 13 months into it, and it wasn't walking, you would probably look around and try and figure out what others were doing so that you could help your child. Please don't leave North Clackamas kids behind again. Don't disrupt their learning for a third year in a row. Provide full-time in-person, a full-time in-person option for kids this year and also next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Next, we have Leah representing Oregon Ravens. Leah, go ahead and introduce yourself. Unmute your mic. You may begin.
Good evening. My name is Leah Hinkle. I work for Clackamas Education Service District as a Title III and dual language specialist. However, tonight I am representing a community organization, the Oregon Ravens. I am the general manager. The president of the Ravens, Juana Dumitrescu, raised her twin boys in the North Clackamas School District, and our head coach and vice president, Tim Price, has served the district for many years as a campus monitor and coach at Milwaukee High School. We are a groundbreaking football team with a mission much more ambitious than the game of football. We are creating a healthy, competitive environment for women to develop and utilize skills to soar to new heights, because we believe that there is no better tool for progress than the empowerment of women. We are inviting women on an athletic field where they are usually confined to the stands. We were weeks away from our inaugural season in April of 2020 when we were told to go home and stay home. Just like the thousands of athletes all over the world, we were devastated. Months of hard work had no outlet, but we persevered, and we've managed to keep our team together and working towards our flight plan for over a year. It's been the longest preseason ever, but we are ready to put on the pads and masks and play one of the greatest games on earth. While you may find this all inspiring, you are probably still wondering why I'm here speaking with you. I come with a simple request. Let us play. We have a 2021 season schedule that includes 3 home games on May 8th, May 22nd, and June 19th. We'd like to play those games on Milwaukee High School's recently upgraded field because we believe our players deserve the best turf we can provide. We are not a scholastic team or a youth organization or Parks and Rec. We do not fall under the umbrella of professional sports either. We are a nonprofit women's team with big goals to counteract inequity in sport. Despite our lack of classification within the sport world, we have one of the best virus prevention programs in the country. Our league, the Women's National Football Conference, has we would follow all district, local, and state guidelines as well. As the number of vaccinated individuals rises, we hope you agree it's time for our inaugural season to take flight. Please allow us to play on Milwaukee High School's football field. Thank you for your consideration. I'm happy to respond to any questions you may have.
Cindy, if I could, Leah, your internet was cutting out. I did not hear the name. Can you repeat the name only, please?
Yes, my name is Leah Hinkle, and I'm representing the Oregon Ravens.
Excellent. And then after the league NFC, you had a sentence. Can you repeat that sentence?
Sure. The Women's National Football Conference has partnered with Promise to provide a weekly COVID-19 testing protocol. You missed?
Yeah, that we got up to protocol. So finish the sentence after protocol.
That rivals college and professional programs.
Perfect. Thank you. Just
Sure.
want to make sure everything that you wanted to say was heard. Appreciate that repeating. Thank you all for your community requests. Just a reminder, during community requests, we are not allowed to respond and ask questions, but we appreciate you guys showing up and making your statements. Next on the agenda is our NCEA presentation statement to support for Asian Pacific Islanders, students, staff, and community members. Well, welcome everyone. Who do we have?
Hello. Hi, Libra. I'm one
Hello.
of them.
Hello. Can you state your name for me?
Hi, my name is Ethlyn Tumlad. We have a PowerPoint thing that we wanted to present. Is it possible to put that up?
Hold on, we're just checking. We're going to let you share. She's going to give you permission to share.
I am not good at this, but I will certainly try. Let's see if I can do this.
Well, we're all trying in this little world called the pandemic, so we're trying together.
You. Give me a second. Or if any one of my fellow peers who's presenting with me could also present or knows how to do it on Zoom.
We need the name of someone. If someone else volunteers, we need your name to give you access to share.
I can change the settings so anybody can share.
Okay.
You want me to
Everyone,
try?
it's at the bottom. It's the share screen, the green button right at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Ethelyn, this is Ellen Dyer talking. Ethelyn, are you going to do it? Do you want me to try?
Here, you try, Ellen. Is that
Okay.
possible?
I'm not a Zoomie, I'm a Google Meets, but I will try.
I think that's one of our bigger things right now is all of the educators are used to Google Meet.
So can you guys give me a thumbs up if you can see the proper screen? I'm getting a security code. I don't have an entrance. I need to enter some kind of code. I'll try one more time.
I think I got it, Ellen. Hold on.
Okay, good.
It's this one.
We have a backup plan. Oh, there it is. We see it. We're
Got
good to
it.
go.
Yes. I want to give a
Excellent.
huge shout out to my tech support behind me, who you do not see, who is my fiance.
Yeah, that's why, but you got the shirt on, so that's all you need.
Yeah, thank you. And my background is my parents' hometown from Bataan in the Philippines. So putting a little bit of groundwork right there. Hello, my name is Ethelyn Tumlad, and I have the pleasure of teaching English language arts and AVID at Clackamas High School. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen, learn, and open up this much needed conversation. Thank you for this opportunity, especially because we have so much going on with the pandemic, comprehensive distance learning, and the launch of hybrid. Shout out to my elementary school peers right now, feeling it. I want to set the stage before we start. I'm one of 9 Asian Pacific Islander educators that came together to create this document and presentation. We represent North Clackamas across the board, both the west and the east side. And with caring for elementary, middle, and high school students, we watch our students of color and specifically our API students struggle the past year. And it wasn't until around February of this year did I reach out to these amazing group of educators. So this is just the beginning and a small portion of your API teachers who represent a broader community that is oftentimes ignored. I hope that our presentation today isn't just a checkbox or a one or done. I hope that it's the start of an ongoing conversation and a movement that our Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Hispanic brothers and sisters have been a part of. So thank you for listening. I'm gonna go ahead and move forward.
On behalf of our Asian Pacific Islander educators and our district affinity group for educators of color, we want to thank the board for adopting the proclamation condemning and denouncing acts of racism and xenophobia against Asian Americans. And we also want to acknowledge that this is an ongoing pattern that's been happening for over a year, and it's really a part of American history. Last month, an Asian American Willamette University college student was attacked going to the grocery store. And according to OPB, anti-Asian bias and hate crime is up 366% in Portland. The recent shootings in Atlanta last month with 6 victims of Asian descent has us just hurting and reeling in shock.
Oops, sorry. Let me make sure that I'm, oh, there it is.
As Asian Pacific Islander educators, we have come together in solidarity with our Black, Indigenous, Hispanic educators of color, as well as allies, in order to ask for more support from our district. We have the support of NCEA Educator of Color Affinity Group from the March 30th meeting.
The model minority myth is a myth placed onto Asian and Asian Americans used for anti-Blackness, racism, and the perpetuation of a colonized mindset that continues to uphold white supremacy. This myth acts to pit racial groups against each other. There exists space to stand in solidarity with all BIPOC groups together at once, and we hope that we are in that space now. We reject the perpetuation of this Black versus API paradigm and call for our forgotten history of solidarity.
This is Ellen Megson Dyer speaking. This slide is to show the connection of our goal tonight, our focus tonight, with our district equity policy. And the bold part's the important part that I'll read. Affirm the identity of each student, acknowledge and celebrate differences to create a sense of belonging for each student. Too many times our API students remain silent. Too many times they're reporting that they feel the need to hide their racial identity to avoid negative incidents. Now more than ever, it's important to affirm the racial identity of our API students. We have some we statements as Asian Americans, as Chinese Americans, as Japanese Americans, as Vietnamese Americans, as Indonesian Americans, as Filipino Americans, and so on. So we as API educators come from diverse backgrounds from all over the district. We as API educators are role models for our students. We as API educators will not be silent. We as API educators feel the urgent need to advocate for our students who might not have a voice. But we cannot do it alone, and we need your support.
So here's a list of some support and action. As a group, we came together and thought, what does our community need? Really, the goals happen to be that provide ongoing support for your API educators according to our unique needs. Ellen spoke a little bit about this. We are a diverse set of educators. You just heard from a few of us, and we all, while our identity does unite us within that census box that is arbitrarily created, and we do have cultural experiences that we share together, we still have diverse lived experiences. This goes the same for our students. Taking from the book of our Black and Brown brothers and sisters, diversify our staffing curriculum to be reflective of our students. When I looked at the data from this current year, I believe the current data indicates our API students make up 10.7% of our students, while our API staff only make up 3% of our total student demographics. So that is actually, out of all of our marginalized identities, that's the biggest gap of teacher to student ratio. And of course, ensure that across grade levels, that API history, excellence, and contributions are highlighted. Once again, taking a note from our Black brothers and sisters, not just during Lunar New Year, but also, or during API month of May, but throughout the school year. Mental health resources, the API community is the least likely of any racial or ethnic group to report mental health distress. We have 2 counselors on our team that really brought this forward. Bias and racism interruption training, so that we can create a safe community, and not just so where now we are speaking up. It's been around all year, and violence has been happening all year, and the resolution just got passed last month, I believe. But in my opinion, and I'm guessing some of my colleagues' opinions who are of API identity, that we wished things had happened sooner, and the resolution had passed sooner. And allocate resources for our API community. That includes our interpreters, that includes our community outreach people. This is a lot, so we thank you, Kathy Way, for suggesting to reach 2 actionable goal steps. We are hoping and asking for support of these 2. By the start of the 2021-2022 school year, the district will provide mental health resources that are accessible to our API community. As stated, our group is the most underreported, and the pandemic has hit ours hardest besides the Latinx community. Mental health resources and outreach is absolutely necessary. My last Clackamas High School Asian Pacific Islander Student Union group did a poll, just a general poll to my kids, and there was about 50 members at that student union. And with that poll, they asked, do you think that North Clackamas School District has done enough to support you through the pandemic? The answer blew me away, and about a little less than half the students said no. About 49% of them said no. And that hit my heart, to know that 49% of my students who show up to an affinity group that they want support is saying North Clackamas School District is not doing enough. And that to me meant we need to do more, right? It really alarmed me. And of course, that date takes me to the next point, which is please support the API affinity groups in the school and implement them district-wide. Currently, I run the Clackamas High School affinity group. Mindy is trying to run the one over at, where are you at, Mindy? Happy Valley, right? Happy Valley, and Bai is currently running the multicultural club over at Rock Creek. So you have educators who really care about the students and their racial identity formation. Students of color need to feel a part of a community and see positive figures of themselves. Having district-wide support for this, I and all the others feel is very feasible. So this is brought to you collectively by NCSD API educators right here. I will let in order the wonderful speakers introduce themselves and say a little something. That's you, Margie.
Sorry, couldn't unmute. I'm Margie Eric. I also run an affinity group at Milwaukee El Puente for the intermediate students.
My name is Teresa Just. I'm a learning specialist in the elementary. I have been moved 3 times in 6 years to different schools, and I am proud to say I found a home at Oregon Trail Elementary.
Is Joni here? Oh, Joni is not here to join us, but however, Joni is, she's an ELD teacher, I believe, over at, Teresa, where is she at right now?
She's at Happy Valley Elementary and Happy Valley Middle School.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Martin Kwan, and I teach at both Alder Creek and Rex Putnam. And I just want to thank you for giving us the time and space to speak to you today.
Hi, I'm Linda Lim. I'm a school psychologist at Oregon Trail Elementary and Spring Mountain Elementary. And again, echoing Martin, just thank you for taking the time and thank you for showing nonverbals that indicate that you are in support of what we're saying.
Hi, I'm Ellen Megson-Dyer. I teach 4th and 5th at View Acres. And I would just like to take this time to thank the board and everyone for listening, but also to acknowledge that Ethelyn has done a lot of equity work, period, and she's done a lot to spearhead, specifically the API equity work. And so thank you, Ethelyn, and we are lucky to have you in our district.
Hi, my name is Mindy Stutzman. I teach visual arts out at Happy Valley Middle School, and I also run the new API affinity group there, which every month we just keep growing. We gain a few more students every month, and they've been asking, why don't we meet more often? So there's definitely a need. I just want to thank the board for allowing us to take up some space and express the needs in the district from us.
And that leaves me, F1 Tumalad. I already said I was from over at Clackamas High School. I did mention that I lead the Asian Pacific Islander Student Union, and I am so happy to be a part of this amazing coalition of API educators that have helped with this statement. And thank you so much, school board, for listening to us and passing the resolution. Seeing Kathy Way be so honest in her lived experience was very moving. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you guys for your wonderful presentation. We definitely appreciate the time and effort that you have been putting into the district, as well as, of course, the time and effort I know it took to put this together. Are there any board members that would like to, if you could stop sharing for me, Ethelyn, thank you. I need to be able to see Director Perez. If a board member has something that they'd like to say, there's no obligation. I'll go ahead and call on you, but please identify yourself and then I'll make a list. Okay.
Lieber,
Director Strader.
Thank you, Drew. I wasn't at the last meeting, so I just want to read this brief statement. Words and acts of hate, violence, and racism directed toward Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have no place in our neighborhoods, schools, cities, nation, or our hearts.
Appreciate you, Director Strado. Director Way.
Yes, I just wanted to just extend congratulations and appreciations for being in this virtual space and sharing your experiences, your lived experiences as educators in our district, as well as leaders in our communities for our kids. I know that a lot of you carry a lot of weight, not only for your students, but for many other hats that you may wear in the community. So I just want to acknowledge that. And, as a leader in the district, I also, as what Ethelyn was said earlier, I just don't want this to be a one-time thing or, a checking the box moment. I think if we really want to live out our values of equity and closing disparities, not only in education, but in resources and mental health and providing students with what they need to really affirm their identities, we need to step it up. So I hear your message loud and clear. Thank you for not staying in the shadows and not being silent. I know that sometimes it's again, I think easy to fall into that silence or that complacency of being a part of a system that maybe you might feel like, oh, it's never going to change. But I think that there are a lot of change agents here in this room, looking at some board members as well as some of the folks who presented tonight, as well as the young people, as well as the students that you are bringing their voices in here. So I'm excited for what the future can look like. And also thank you, last but not least, for sharing your honesty with ways that we can continue to show up as a board for our API students. So thank you.
Okay, I'll wrap it up just by saying I appreciate your heavy lifting. I appreciate the energy and the sweat and tears that it takes to do the heavy lifting. Few notes. Some of you may know this about me, some of you may not. I am not a fan of acronyms because I don't feel like it names who you are. So I definitely recognize what API stands for, but I think stating it is more powerful. I think it's necessary, especially during these times. In addition to that, on a side note, a small commercial break. Martin, I need your mic because you sound like a radio host and it's magnificent. And if you are teaching classes with that, I would go all the time because that's pretty darn amazing. Super dope. I do see another director. So Director Perez, is there something you'd like to say?
Yes, thank you, Chair Ford. And I apologize. I thought you were going to go, I misheard. I thought you were going to go board member to board member. So I just want to say, thank you for coming out and presenting today. And I just want to say that anytime that you can be a leader for the students, because at the end of the day, it's about our children and creating those affinity groups and being a role model for them. I mean, that's where it all starts. And you're playing a pivotal role for our students in those schools. And so thank you. On top of everything else that you all do, thank you for being role models for our students. We definitely need that. And however we can support you in doing that and getting those groups going and maintaining them forever, let us know, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Perez. Seeing no other directors, let me just make sure. We appreciate you guys. Thank you. I wish you could see my smile, but I am smiling. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you for coming. Next on our agenda is our superintendent's report. He's on the countdown on these reports right here.
Good evening, members of our school community, parents, students, and our board of directors. We're going to start my report this evening with a video highlighting the beginning of our elementary hybrid model.
Go outside, outside. Put your fingers in, put your fingers in. And you're in kindergarten?
So again, good evening, members of our community, our school board, students and staff that are watching tonight. Tonight, my superintendent's report is primarily going to focus on the district's return to in-person instruction. And during my report tonight, I'm going to cover the state and county health metrics and the latest revisions to state school guidance. I'll share with you the results of the secondary instructional model survey that families recently completed. I'll discuss the secondary delivery models for the remainder of the 2020-21 school year, give you an update on our health and safety protocols, provide some information on looking ahead to the 2021-22 school year, and give a brief update on state assessments. And I'll conclude with another recognition of a North Clackamas educator for some statewide achievement. So let's begin by reviewing where we are with regards to state metrics, the governor's mandates, and changes to Ready Schools Safe Learners. As you recall, that is the guide for what school districts can and cannot do regarding the operation of schools. For the 2 weeks prior to April 2nd, Clackamas County reported 141 cases of coronavirus per 100,000 residents, with a test positivity rate of 5.5%. This puts our school district in the green row on the state schools metric chart, where it states that public K-12 schools must offer an on-site or hybrid option. Clackamas County has now been below 200 cases per 100,000 residents for 9 consecutive weeks. However, for the past 3 weeks, the case rate has climbed from 85 to 98 to 108 to this week, 141. This increase is concerning. It's important to point out that according to Ready School Safe Learner guidance, when a county trends increase to a new tier on this chart, for example, from green to yellow, pausing expansion of additional in-person learning and maintaining the current learning for schools that are currently operating, keeping that in place is recommended. But it's important for us to all remember, as members of this North Clackamas community, now is not the time to ease up on health and safety protocols. We've come a long way, and we need to continue to wear masks, physically distance, and wash our hands in order to get our students back into school. Prior to spring break, the governor announced dates by which districts must provide a form of in-person instruction. She declared that elementary on-site instruction must be in place by March 29th, which we achieved by rolling out our elementary hybrid schedule. She said that secondary on-site instruction must begin by April 19th, unless districts were granted a 1-week extension if they had already announced prior dates. We had announced our prior dates to start our hybrid secondary model, and that aligned with the end of our 3rd academic quarter, and we took advantage of this extension. So on-site learning in our middle schools and our high schools is scheduled to begin on April 26th, the beginning of our 4th quarter. As a school board, you will need to know that we're hearing from some voices in our community that the Teachers Association in particular has been unwilling to return to in-person instruction. I need to clarify that that is simply not the case in the North Clackamas School District. The North Clackamas Education Association has been willing and a collaborative partner in the planning to initiate on-site learning. All North Clackamas employee groups stand ready to provide instruction and services to students both on-site and online for families that choose to stay in comprehensive distance learning. Our employee groups have been strong partners in finding solutions and creative options throughout this planning process. My last guidance update involves the March 22nd revision to Ready School Safe Learners. Those changes included reducing the required distance between students from 6 feet to 3 feet in elementary classrooms. It reduced the required distance between students from 6 feet to 3 feet in middle school and high school classrooms in counties where the case rate of COVID infections is less than 200 per 100,000 residents. The new guidance also removed the spacing requirement of 35 feet per person. The guidance also maintained the 6 feet of physical distancing when masks cannot be worn, and this includes when students are eating. I need to emphasize this because this is a barrier. It also maintains 6 feet of distancing during activities that involved increased exhalation, such as singing, shouting, band, sports, and physical activity. And it maintained the 6-foot standard as the threshold of close contact for exposure determined by public health. And that includes even for students with whom 3 feet of physical distance from other students is recommended as a preventative measure. This last bullet is extremely important. In the past 2 days in the North Clackamas School District, we have been notified of 2 students and 1 staff member who've contracted COVID-19. The more people we put in close contact with one another, the more people will be forced to self-isolate and quarantine. So based on these changes in state guidance, we surveyed our middle school and high school families regarding instructional models. The survey was available over a 2-week time period with email and phone call reminders. The survey generated a 76% response rate. In addition, when we sent out the survey, we communicated that a non-response would result in a comprehensive distance learning placement for that student. And finally, we are continuing to accept calls this week and are capturing those parents' requests who weren't able to complete the survey. The survey data told us the following: that 68% of the respondents selected in-person learning. This percentage drops to 52% of the school population, with those respondents included. 32% of the respondents, but that jumps to 48% with the non-respondents, will remain in CDL. 40% of the in-person respondents requested transportation, which is about 21% of those in-person learners. So based on this data and the changes in physical distancing requirements, we determined that we could increase the amount of in-person learning at the middle school and high school level. We started by asking ourselves if we could return students to full-time in-person learning. The required 6 feet of separation between students during lunch makes going back to full-time in-person learning nearly impossible, as our classrooms and cafeterias are not large enough to provide the necessary separation required when students must remove their masks to eat. We also lack the staff to supervise students if they would be spread out throughout the entire school to consume their meals. In addition, at the high school level, full-day in-person instruction would require a modification to how comprehensive distance learning would work. Remember that nearly 50% of our students will be learning in comprehensive distance learning. In a full-day in-person model, instead of meeting in a Google Classroom receiving direct instruction, CDL students would be provided the opportunity to watch the teacher teach students in a classroom. That instruction moves from a two-way interaction to a one-way viewing of the instruction for nearly half our students. As an educator, this lack of interaction between students and the teacher and students and their peers is concerning. While it may be a part of a model, I cannot see a situation where it would be an effective instructional approach for such a large group of students for their full instructional day. So others may ask, why don't you make some of your middle school and high school teachers full CDL teachers and some of your teachers in-person teachers, similar to the elementary model? This model works when students have a single teacher or a single class, but we cannot separate the one welding teacher or the one band teacher or the one AP physics teacher. This staffing issue plays out for every singleton class in the school, of which there are many, including nearly every course at Sabin-Schellenberg. For these reasons, the full day in-person model is not a viable option for us right now. So we next asked ourselves, how could we increase the amount of direct in-person instruction and online instruction for our students? With the revised physical distancing requirements and examining the number of students selecting in-person instruction, we know that we can safely increase in-person instruction to 4 half days per week. This is double the amount of time from our early hybrid proposal. And that would be over the next 8 weeks or 39 school days. Beginning on April 26th, we will begin our high school hybrid schedule. And direct instruction will occur on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. In the morning, every student will have 2 periods of online instruction. This is about 2 hours of instruction from their assigned teacher. In the afternoon, students will have 2 periods of in-person instruction for roughly 3 hours. Or for those students who are choosing to stay in CDL, they will be able to log in and watch and listen to the in-person instruction. On each of the 4 instructional days, students will be enrolled in their 4 courses with their own teachers, likely those same teachers they had from second quarter, receiving direct instruction. This model includes transportation and access to Sabin Schoenberg courses in the afternoon as well. Asynchronous instruction is no longer needed. Again, asynchronous instruction is no longer needed as part of this instructional model. This model provides roughly 5 hours each day of direct teacher contact and instruction 4 days a week. Wednesdays will remain similar to how they operate now. The community check-in class will continue. Limited in-person instruction will continue to be available to seniors to ensure they graduate later this spring. Teachers will continue to be available for students via office hours, and we will continue food delivery for our nearly 3,000 students. In addition, teachers will continue to be provided additional planning time. Unlike a normal school year where teachers primarily instruct in person, under this model, teachers are expected to teach utilizing 3 different instructional modalities: in person, online, and simulcast. Each one of these models requires specific planning and preparation to do it well. The middle school hybrid schedule is slightly different from the high school schedule due to the fact that our middle school students' schedule includes more than 4 periods in a school day. On Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday mornings, CDL students will receive their core instruction online from their assigned teacher. In the afternoon, they will access their electives and specialized support programs asynchronously. In-person students will access their electives asynchronously in the morning with in-person classes in the afternoon. And like high school, the Wednesday morning schedule remains similar to the current model for the same reasons. For both middle school and high school hybrid schedules, the district will provide transportation to and from in-person classes. Our elementary school schedule started last Monday, and tomorrow we will wrap up our 2nd week of students learning inside our school buildings, which is exciting. In-person instruction includes 2 mornings per week with transportation provided for our students. And comprehensive distance learning remains a separate option for students and families. Today, we are planning to maintain this current model for the remainder of this school year. Our current elementary hybrid model was designed for 6 feet of separation, not the new 3 feet of separation. When we moved to this model, we also created separate CDL classrooms. Given this design, we still looked if we could expand elementary in-person learning to 4 days per week. This would require the collapsing of each of the teachers' 2 cohorts. If we were to do this, we would have many class sizes over 27 students, with some over 30. We were not comfortable with these large class sizes during a pandemic and our ability to maintain physical distancing requirements between students. We then looked at these large class sizes to see if we could lower them by shifting students to other classes. This would require for some students to shift to their 3rd teacher this school year, and for some students, their 2nd new teacher in less than a month. It would also require the creation of blended classrooms, 1st and 2nd graders together, or 3rd and 4th graders together. Even shifting students between classrooms in schools would not fix the large class sizes, as in some schools, there is no place to shift the students due to large class sizes throughout all grade levels. Therefore, to make 4 days of in-person instruction work, it would have required us shifting students to other schools. We just simply do not see this as a viable option. They're far too disruptive to students and families for the roughly 30 days of instruction that are left this school year. So it goes without saying that the health and safety protocols remain a top priority for our school district. Restrooms are being cleaned at least twice daily. You saw in the video, our custodians wiping down those frequently touched surfaces. Right? The door handles, the desks, the light switches, and faucets are being cleaned and disinfected at least twice a day, and hand sanitizer is available throughout the school. Ventilation assessments have been completed at all elementary schools, and we're finishing up those assessments at middle and high school. Those ventilation systems have been adjusted to meet assessment recommendations and national air quality standards. So we're increasing that outside airflow. We've gone to more restrictive filters that block out that virus where we possibly can do that. And we have added air purifiers throughout the school. And as a reminder, that ventilation report and our COVID protocols and health and safety protocols are posted on the district website. So here's a timeline of the next round of expected communications. Middle school and high school families will receive an email tomorrow, that's Friday, with information about the new state guidelines for physical distancing and information regarding the hybrid schedule. Detailed schedule information for middle school and high school students will be sent home by the end of next week via email, and transportation routes for middle school and high school students should be posted on the Versatrans website by the end of next week as well. And looking ahead to the next few months, plans are underway at our high schools for our high school graduations. Once those graduation plans are finalized, by individual high schools will share those details with seniors and their families. It's exciting. Summer school learning opportunities and summer social activities are also being planned, and the district will share those plans in May. I know we're getting a lot of questions as to what the school year will look like next fall. So looking ahead to the start of the next school year, our district leadership and our staff are hopeful for a return to full in-person instruction. The North Clackamas School District is planning to be back in school full-time in person this fall as state vaccination rates continue to climb and as physical distancing requirements continue to be eased. Families and students will likely have two options for school beginning in the fall. One will be the North Clackamas Virtual Online Program, also known as VOP. And you're going to hear more about the virtual online program in an agenda item later this evening. The second option for students will be their neighborhood, magnet, or charter school in-person instruction. We are not planning for a CDL, a comprehensive distance learning option, in the fall. Students, again, would have those two options: a fully online virtual program or in person in their neighborhood, magnet, or charter school. So again, planning to be back full-time in the fall, as again, these state vaccine rates continue to climb and physical distancing requirements continue to ease. So I'm going to shift slightly in my last couple of slides here to topics that aren't directly related to the reopening of schools, but I know there is interest in them. So I want to give an update on state assessments. Earlier this year, the Oregon Department of Education submitted a waiver that requested the suspension of state testing for this school year to the Oregon Department of Education. The North Clackamas School District was supportive of that waiver. Unfortunately, that waiver was denied by the US Department of Education. So ODE recently submitted an amended waiver that dramatically scaled back state testing requirements. And that amended waiver was approved. And so for this spring, there will only be one shortened assessment at grades 3 through 6, and two shortened assessments at grades 7, 8, and 11. The 95% test participation rate should be waived, and in the coming weeks, and the parent opt-out is still available. In the coming weeks, we'll communicate our testing plan both to our staff and our families. And so as I conclude tonight, last but certainly not least, I'd like to offer congratulations to Deborah Barnes. She's a teacher at our Sabin Schellenberg Professional Technical Center, broadcasting and social media journalism. She recently received the Oregon Association of Current Technical Educators, their Lifetime Achievement Award. And again, congratulations for a job well done, Deb. We are proud of you. And with that, I am now available for questions and comments. Thank you, board.
Thank you, Superintendent Atterback. I'm going to do a round robin and give you all a chance to ask questions of Superintendent, because I know you all have questions. I will also ask all board members to note that if you have a follow-up question, you must wait for everyone to say their part, and I will get back to you once everyone has had a chance to speak. Okay, Director Strado.
I don't have any questions this time. I mean, the presentation was very well done, and I read the packet beforehand, and I've asked many questions, but I do not have questions at this time.
Thank you. Director Perez.
One question, Superintendent. Thank you, Chair Ford. One question, Superintendent, on the state assessment. That's I guess I'm a little surprised by that, considering we just went through a year and still going of the pandemic. I guess my question is, who should we? Again, I'm kind of in shock that we have to do state testing, but who should parents, community members, board members, all of it, who should we be? Legislators up high? Who should we be taking this to? It's a little frustrating.
I think that's a great question, Director Perez. I believe that the Oregon Department of Education, our local legislators were supportive of the waiver that Oregon submitted. We all are in agreement that given the year that our students have been through, to bring them back to school and have them have to participate in a state test, when there's roughly 8 weeks of school left, is not what we want to do, and it's not what we think is probably in their best interest. And so concerns should be addressed to our Congress representatives and our senators and the U.S. Department of Education. I think that them hearing from parents of students in the school system would certainly be helpful.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent. And the last thing I will say is, again, working in a hospital, I see a lot of things and a little concerned to hear we had 2 students and 1 staff come down with COVID here in the last couple of days. And I know what we've been seeing in our pediatric intensive care unit with COVID associated illnesses. So I will just say what Superintendent said, please, now is not the time to ease up on the health and safety protocols. Please, please keep washing your hands, wearing your mask, distancing, and everything that you can to keep all of us safe and healthy, especially our children. Thank you, Superintendent.
Thank you, Director Perez. Director Way.
Thank you again, Superintendent, for the report. I do have a couple of questions. So one of my first questions was around just some of the vaccination rates that we're seeing in our county, and hopefully with our staff and educators and perhaps broader community. Do you have any updates on how those have been going? And I also know that just this week there has been an increased eligibility for as young as 16-year-olds to also receive vaccinations, which could also, quite obviously impact our high school students.
Great question. First I will admit that I'm not a expert on the state vaccine rates, but I think I read what many of us are reading in the media. It sounds like we're about 25% of Oregonians, I think last time I checked, have received at least one of their shots. And it definitely seems to be the daily rate of vaccine seems to be climbing. I'm hearing now 40,000 plus some days, and that is exciting. I think we know that the Johnson & Johnson single shot potentially has the impact to be maybe some are saying a game changer in how rapidly we can continue to get people vaccinated. Yes, and we recently heard, that I think in the next week or two, the vaccine availability opens up broadly to even more people. So I remain hopeful and optimistic that vaccines will continue. And we're certainly, one of the things that we're noticing right now is that the number of cases among people over 65 is down dramatically. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is the percentage of cases among youth is up. And we would suspect that to happen simply because the youth have not had an opportunity to be vaccinated.
Thank you. That sounds exciting that, yes, more and more people are getting resources and more information about vaccinations, and perhaps, again, our district can continue to be a partner with health programs and school-based health centers to try to continue to spread the public health message. My next question is around the bus transportation. So I know that, because of physical distancing, there's lesser occupancy on our school buses, which could also potentially cause a problem with students waiting for buses longer. I just want to hear from you in terms of how you feel like those bus schedules will work now that we are slowly and safely reopening.
Yeah, absolutely. To share some information there regarding transportation. One of the valuable pieces of data that we collected from that survey, the middle school and high school parent survey, provided insight for us around the number of students that we're going to select district transportation, because we certainly don't want to pack 80 kids on a school bus, which we do during a normal school year. We want to try to keep those students safe. And what we're noticing, particularly elementary school, is a lot of parents are choosing to drive their students to school, and that has allowed us, to have some, I would say, some pretty empty buses. And I think we're going to see the same thing at middle school and high school as well. That being said, there are health and safety protocols that are in place on the bus, and trying to separate students by at least 3 feet. Masks are obviously required. We are cleaning the buses between routes, and certainly encouraging when students are waiting for the bus and to come to school, encouraging those bus stops, that 6 feet of separation is what we're asking students and parents to honor. So I feel pretty good about where we are with transportation, and we're really just truly thankful for actually our transportation staff, who continues to have to modify their schedules and their routes, and just really appreciative of our bus drivers that stuck with us during this pandemic. Many will recall we unfortunately had to lay off our bus drivers, and just my heart goes out to them for sticking with the North Clackamas School District and allowing us to get staff back up very quickly.
Thank you. Those are all the questions I have. I'll share it with other board members if they have any.
Thank you, Director Ray. Director McVeigh.
Thank you, Chair Ford. Oh, first off, that video, it was mixed emotions. It was great to see the littles, but what was disheartening was all of the energy that is being put on not educating your kids. And so I just feel like, oh, I can't wait for the day that we're not cleaning constantly or social distancing, just the awareness of all that. So
it was a great video, but it was definitely mixed emotions. You know, when we saw your recommendation and we spent, I just want to tell the people, anyone that's listening, I spent 2 hours, it seemed like about 2 hours on Wednesday. And I just really want to thank you for that, because it felt very much at times like you were being interrogated by us. And it just goes to your leadership, the respect you had for people questioning everything. And you had already thought about all those scenarios. And so that made me feel really good that you had, not you and your team have really thought about everything. I guess many of us were kind of naive about the whole lunch thing and the 6 foot distancing. So thank you for refreshing us. But the big thing for me was when I heard how 60% of our kids, if we went 5 full days, could be in a classroom, and 40% would be watching TV for 6 hours. And that's what it would be. They would not be being taught. They'd be watching TV, and they would be on their own, and for the most part to learn. And that isn't a good outcome for anybody. And so I thought about that after we talked. I'm like, ugh, if I chose to keep my kid at home, I still would want them taught. And so this 4 days a week, 2 full day in person and 2 full days, and actually being taught online, it was hard for me to get behind it because I wanted 5 full days so bad. But I don't see any way around it, even with the lunch issue. You just can't teach someone for 6 hours a day, having them watch TV when they're in 6th grade. I'm sorry, this doesn't work. And so I really appreciated all of the time you spent with us talking about, and again, all the singlets. I didn't know what a singlet was, and it's, but then we said, an AP physics teacher in a high school, some only have one. I think Milwaukee, this physics or biology only has one. What would they do? So those families then would not have a choice. And we've been talking about families having a choice during this pandemic from day one. And then of course, the whole Sabin-Schellenberg, which is our diamond, is our gold standard of technical education. Most of them are singletons, if you will. And so none of those kids would have a choice on how their families and themselves chose to be educated. So I guess the silver lining, if there is one in your recommendation, or really it's your decision, is that there's only 39 days left. And although that's 39 precious days, it's 39 days of until we can reboot, retool. So thank you.
Thank you, Director McVeigh. Director Menaloga.
Yes, thank you, Chair Ford. And thank you again. I also want to echo Tori's comment that we really appreciated your time. And I know that it's a team and a Herculean effort. And we just appreciate all of the time and the hours that go into planning and the presentation again. And I will also state that one of the things that I think that we found very revealing was when we talked about that there will be no more asynchronous learning. And I think that that's really huge and a very important aspect for our community. I do have just one quick question, and we didn't touch on it too much, but as far as like special education and our English language learners, what is the thought and how are we feeling that we're going to be able to service those students in CDL and in person? And do we have the staff and do we have the funding to take the extra precautions that they need?
Thanks, Director Benaloga. I just want to offer one piece of clarification. The asynchronous learning goes away at high school. It will still be present for electives at the middle school
Correct,
level.
yes. Thank you for that, yes.
At the middle school level, in the mornings, the in-person students will have access to those asynchronous electives, but they'll also have the opportunity to engage online live with their learning specialist and their English language development specialist. The afternoon, the same thing. For those students that are in CDL, in the afternoon, they'll be able to access their learning specialist and their ELD specialist in a synchronized manner. At the high school level, our high school students receive support really one of two ways, either embedded into their classes, in which they will all obviously be participating in, and then some students have standalone classes as well, where they receive a more intensive support. And we haven't removed those classes from our from student schedules. So it will, I think, be fairly consistent as to what it's been in the past. Obviously, how we deliver that content will either be online or in person, but that support will remain.
And is there funding for any extra precautions that we need to take for those, especially that I'm thinking about the specialized learning environments?
Some of those self-contained classrooms.
Right, yeah.
Yes. That certainly, when you go to the Ready School Safe Learners Guidance and some of the other supporting materials, there is a tremendous amount of guidance and protocols and procedures that we need to have in place. We've used some of those specialized federal dollars that we've received from the federal government to help buy some of that protective equipment, some additional safety measures and protocols. So we're feeling pretty good. It was nice that we've now started elementary a couple of weeks before middle school and high school, so it allowed us to get elementary up and running and figure out some things before we move to middle school and high school. So that staggered start was beneficial for that reason.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, directors. I just have 2 questions. Oh, I'm sorry, Director Bauer, I forgot you. You were on my list too. My bad. Director Bauer.
I could wait, Chair
No,
Ford.
go for it.
Well, thank you, Superintendent Utterback. And yeah, we had a lot of questions when you first presented this to us, and it really did help. And I'm hoping that the community heard you trying to answer as many questions as you had. One piece too that it might be good just to comment on, because you check regularly with ODE, OHA, other school districts, and the large school districts have a bigger problem with more kids. I mean, you explained that Clackamas High School has 2,500, and when you try to take 1,700 and have lunch, you can't have kids unsupervised. That made a difference to me too. And then when we think about and hear that other districts in the Pine, is opening, how are they doing it? And we keep hearing that. Their high schools are not as big, correct? And their weather's a little different. We don't know exactly what they're doing, but I did look up their high school sizes. They don't have any over about 1,600. And then I'm sure not all of those are coming back. So that gives them more room. So do you want to comment at all on any of that?
Sure. I mean, we do have larger high schools. And I think one of the pieces that I'm really appreciative of our district and our staff is that, we did take parent feedback. We slowed down, which I know is frustrating to some parents, but we have taken the new guidance and have applied the new guidance. And I think it's really important, to point that out to folks, is we've doubled the amount of in-person learning that we originally had designed. And our students are going to receive, I think, as I said, about 5 hours of instruction from their teacher, 4 days a week. And I think that that's a pretty unique model in the state right now. And I think that's something that we should be proud of, and that's something we should celebrate. Yeah, I've heard from folks about just push kids outside to eat lunch. That's great until it rains. And then what do you do? And we all know that forcing high school students outside when it's raining, that's probably just not going to happen. And so I think that we're hopeful that as we move into the summer and the more vaccines are available, that the state and the Oregon Health Authority will look at lifting some of these continued physical distancing restrictions. And if not, I think it will provide us an opportunity to figure out how could we do lunch if that remains in place. It potentially would require us to hire some more lunch supervision. If kids are going to have to eat in classrooms or in other odd places of the building, we need people there. And and to supervise. We're responsible for them and their health and safety, and we want to make sure that we have adults present when at all times when kids are in our buildings.
And also, I wanted to comment on the CDL. Actually, it's interesting that that amount went up also, and that who are the kids? I mean, do you know any more about that group compared to those that want to go back?
I think that we have collected the demographic data on who's in our CDL classrooms, and I think families select that based upon their students. In some cases, students' medical needs. I mean, we have a large number of students that may have medical issues that puts them at risk to coming back into large groups of students. And until they're vaccinated, that's going to be a concern for families. We have families that are multi-generational that still, maybe haven't had the opportunity to be fully vaccinated. And so I think every family makes a choice, that's based on the best interest of their family, and we need to honor that. And I think one of the pieces that concerns me is that, and I've seen it, is our community. I don't want our community to start kind of pitting CDL families against online families. We're a community. We need to stay together through this. We're almost through this. I think we're at the tail end of this pandemic. We've got another couple, maybe tough months left, but I think we need to value people's choices and not judge people's choices through this, these last couple weeks of our educational system. Thank you for asking the question.
Well, thank you for the extra work, and that time allowed you to develop more time for kids back. And I know you even were working weekends, and so thank you to you and your staff coming up with these solutions. I'm really excited about the summer activities and credit recovery, and we'll just find out more about that. So that's another project you have, not only these 3 models, but again, that work is going to be developing, and we'll hear more about that in May. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Director Bauer. Director McVeigh.
Yes, thanks for coming back to me. As you know, I got choked up when trying to find these silver linings or these golden nuggets, not returning kids 5 days a week. One thing I wanted to say that I was really happy about, since we're not really able to do that, is the additional LIPI, the limited in person that we can do on Wednesdays. And through this pandemic, we know that kids are needing some more help, and this allows us to have some additional resources on Wednesdays to bring some of those kiddos and big kids, little kids in and get them some much needed attention that they need in these limited in person groups. So, just thank you for the best proposal I think that kind of came out of this. I know not everyone, many people are disappointed that it's not 5 full days. Keep hearing that out there. And I know that's where you started and that's where you wanted to go. And when you did the numbers and the math and whatnot, it just didn't work. But again, I'm repeating myself, but the big deal when I went home that evening was 40% of our kids watching TV as their educational model.
I appreciate that comment, Director McVeigh, and I would say it's not even like watching TV. It's going to be the teacher in their classroom teaching to kids live in the classroom, and their laptop is going to be open and they're going to be recording, streaming that live. I would say watching TV would be an upgrade, potentially from that. It would have been a challenge, and I could not have brought that recommendation forward.
Thank you for that clarification.
I want to make sure Board Chair that Orlando has hand up.
Director Perez.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Ford. One thing I just wanted to follow up. This has been one heck of a year. And that's an understatement, needless to say. And sometimes we assume that folks in our community and our fellow, our neighbors, that they know or they have this information. And so I just want to say that superintendent and all of the staff, this information has been on there, but I just want to make sure everybody's aware. Sometimes we assume that everybody knows, but if you Google North Clackamas School District, and up on top, there's a tag that says About Us. If you hover over that, it'll bring down a menu. If you click on social services, there are tons of options right there, including social service resources, counseling services, homeless services, mental health resources. There's a COVID-19 resources link, family support center, food support, dental health, and so on. There's a whole bunch of resources there. Just Google North Clackamas School District, hover above where it says About Us, drop down menu social services, because we all got to get through this together. Please let your neighbors know, let fellow parents know. We got to help each other through this. And I just want to remind everyone that. And also one last thing, on a side note, you mentioned Superintendent Deb Barnes. Congratulations to Deb Barnes. Awesome.
Thank you, directors, and thank you for that reminder on the celebration of Barnes' great accomplishments for a great human being. I have a few questions and then a few comments. So my first question is, I saw 86.
Can't hear you.
Can't hear me? Oh, my bad. Sorry. How's that? I've been talking the whole time, but can you hear me now? Okay. All right. So first question, 86 school buses each day. How many kids are we transporting each day?
I don't have that information. I can get it to you. The 86 school buses that are running that's to support elementary programs, will probably increase that a little bit when we start add middle school and high school to that, and Sabin Schellenberg shuttles, food delivery, Lippy instruction. So our transportation department has stepped up rapidly, and again, I'm appreciative for that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I'll follow up with you on it to get, just roughly how many kids are on those buses. I see them in the streets. It's great to see the buses moving. I know little people, you can't see them through the window always, but I know they're on there. So it's cool to see them moving through the streets. Before the pandemic, what was our average class size?
If you give me a little bit of grace, kindergarten, we staff at 24, grades kind of 1-5. We were probably around 26, 27, middle school, high school, between 30 and 31.
I just wanted to make sure that we're aware that before we got here, people had a class size issue. And I think that you've been very diligent and aware of making sure that we don't create a new issue. But I want to make sure that we're all aware of where we were and where we're going. So a couple comments that I have. I really appreciate the way that this district has leveraged dollars in our single subject teachers spreading across many areas. I think that that's a brilliant way to provide students with excellent education. We also see now that that's also a challenge with the pandemic and what we have now. But I think it's important that we recognize most of our leveraging of dollars has been successful in education because we've done it so well and we've been able to offer kids so many things. And now it's a little challenging. And here in our school district, we stand really tall on equity. And I think many of the things that I'm hearing in the school district, in the school community, are conflicting. What I appreciate most about this presentation, superintendent and staff, is that equity is over equality. Equality is leaving the door open, right, for anyone to enter who wants to come in. but equity is ensuring that everyone has a way to that door. And for me, all of your presentations have shown that you guys are taking very delicate care of making sure that kids have a clear pathway. It may not be running, they may not be sprinting, but the pathway is being built. And I will end by saying, we cannot expect our kids to be perfect because none of us are perfect. And so in all of this, I feel sometimes perfection may be the ask of you and your staff, where I think that we need to look at progress. In every presentation that you've provided, we've progressed. And for that, I appreciate it. This is a nation that has pushed perfection for way too long. We need to push progress, and healthy progress will always win the equity game. To all of my fellow board members, standing in equity is a hard game to play. This has been a hard walk. It is no joke. People want to talk about equity and they just want to talk about it. The work is hard, it's heavy, you sweat a lot, you have a lot of people who bang on your back, but you guys have stood strong and I appreciate each and every one of you. My kids walk in the school district and I know that you guys care for them. It is not about equality for me. It is not about equality for the school district. We stood an oath to say that we will fight for equity, and this is what equity looks like. So thank you all for your work. Thank you for your work. Thank you, staff, for your work. This too shall come to a close. And looks like we're going full-time next year. 5 days it is. All right. So next thing on our agenda is the 2021-2022 inter-district transfer discussion only. Tiffany, what you got for us? You're muted.
It's going to take me about 30 seconds here to get myself organized. Thanks for the welcome and the introduction. All right. Can you see a slide that says North Clackamas School District Inter-District Transfers? Excellent, thank you. Board Chair, thank you, Chair Ford, for giving me the space tonight to come forward and talk with you all about inter-district transfers. This is inter-district transfer considerations for next school year. It is a discussion item scheduled for board action at your next meeting. So tonight is discussion only on the topic. Here in Oregon, there are many methods for students to enroll at a school in a school district that is not necessarily where they're currently living. I want to make sure that it's crystal clear here that there are a lot of methods. They're shown here on the slide tonight, and for the purposes of our conversation, we're talking about inter-district transfer in particular. It's in our board policy that annually the school board will weigh in on inter-district transfer slots in the slot-based portion of the system for the following school year. So inter-district transfer has both those bullets there, both a slot-based system and a hardship system. And tonight we're staying focused on that slot-based system. And when I come back next time, what I'll be looking for is your action either on this or any changes you would suggest on the attachment B in your agenda item. So that will ultimately be what the action would be around. So inter-district transfer in the state of Oregon about 10 years ago was a rather loose process. And over the past, I'd say about 8 years ago, became a very structured system that is slot-based for transfers coming into and out of North Clackamas. It's a lottery-based system when there's more interest than there are slots. After a lottery is held, remaining slots are available on a first come, first served basis. Hardship transfers are available by application, more based on a person's individual context. There's very clear delineation in the law what hardship means, but that is a separate system from the slot system. Either of those two, both the slots or the hardship, require the resident district to release the student. So in the state of Oregon, it's a two-part process, both being accepted into the desired district and being released from the resident district. A student, once they receive an interdistrict transfer, is considered to then be a resident of the attending district until they graduate. That has been our practice here in North Clackamas, that interdistrict transfers have been through graduation and or until they're no longer are required to attend school or attend a different school district. Revocation of an interdistrict transfer governed pretty tightly by state law, only for attendance or behavioral guidelines. And I will share with you, it is incredibly rare in our school district, less maybe than 4 or 5 in a 6 or 7, 8, 9 year period. Incredibly rare. Let's see, I think I'm having a little internet slow down. So somebody give me a verbal if I freeze or you can't hear me. 2021-2022 interdistrict transfer into North Clackamas. So here's what we're proposing, is that we open slots at schools where the 5-year projected enrollment is less than 95% of the building capacity. We certainly would not want to be in a place where we knowingly would be putting more students into a school than there's even physical capacity for. Slots only opening at grades 12 in the Clackamas and Adrian C. Nelson High School feeders due to boundary changes implemented for next school year. This has been our practice now. This would be the 3rd year in a row that through the boundary change process, we allow the boundary changes to take hold. We allow students to settle. And then I would anticipate late next fall and winter having some robust conversation about would we be looking then to increase the number of students, we have a pinch point at our middle schools, of course, throughout the district for enrollment. So leave that for later consideration. Restricting the slots at Riverside, Whitcomb, and El Puente to the neighborhood English programs only. We have ample interest within the school district, and without bringing in students from outside of the school district, our dual immersion programs fill with resident North Clackamas students. And then this is, by all accounts, a very odd school year. Our enrollments are in flux. Even so much as that we just this week, we're still balancing our elementary enrollments for the hybrid and so on, and CDL. So what we're suggesting is the slots open. We go through a lottery process through May, June. We notify families. Families know. We continue to fill slots. But on August 14th, about 2 weeks before school, about that time that we have our office staffs fully back in all of our schools and enrollments are starting to shake out, we'll look and see if any of our schools are over what they were staffed at. We'll look and see if any of our schools are over at the grade level or the school, and we would pause for that school on any interdistrict transfers at that time. We certainly do not want to get into a situation where we have a classroom of 32 second graders and somehow we are adding a 33rd through interdistrict transfer. It's not good for any of the students involved, including the student who would be transferring in. So you'll notice there on August 14th, that pause was formerly 2 or 3 weeks into the school year. But based on where enrollments are and the flux, we really suggest that we have that flexibility to not put anyone in a difficult situation. You can see here then on this slide the actual slots that are being proposed available using that methodology of 5-year enrollment, over 95% of capacity. They're fairly similar to last year. It opens 3 additional schools. It's about 10 slots different than last year, but fairly similar. And then for leaving North Clackamas, we would propose to continue to to not limit the number of interdistrict transfers that we would provide outside of the school district. We've done this for about 6 school years. When students and families want to leave the school district, it's something that we want to support. We want them to be able to take advantage of other programs that may be meeting their needs or meet their needs better. We also recognize that forcing someone to stay in a relationship doesn't necessarily make that relationship more healthy. It has been a positive move in the school district, I think, for a number of reasons. I want to just talk openly about interdistrict transferring out unlimited. There could be a fear for some that could be a lot of students who would leave. You can revisit that decision at any time. And as staff, we always keep the superintendent apprised of any alarming enrollment patterns or movement patterns. Looking forward, we do have a timeline for how we would move through the process, fairly similar to in years past, the procedures, I guess you could say, as you move through. Let me think if there's anything else to say about the timeline. I don't think so. I'm available for your questions and happy to respond.
Thank you for that information. If you have a comment or question, please make me aware and I will call on you. Oh, Director Bauer.
Thank you, Tiffany Sherman, for the information. It's kind of soothing to know that this is something that we've done for 6 years, and we're hoping will be similar in the fall. It's just, in spite of what's happened for a whole year, we're very hopeful. But also, it's always interesting to me that the number out and the number in nets very closely to a single digit. It doesn't change too much. So that's probably what we hopefully will expect again. So that's my comment. Thank you for this presentation and the information.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing all the comments, this comes back to us April 22nd for an action. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. Next on our agenda is middle school and high school fees, discussion only. Got a couple presenters. I see Libby Miller's first. Is your crew ready to rock and roll?
I'm going to be the one doing the main presenting tonight, if that's okay. So thank you for having me, directors. And I'm going to present my screen. Let's see. Can everybody see?
Nope.
No? Better? Oh, excellent. Great. All right. This is actually going to be a very similar presentation to what you saw last year about fees, primarily because we are not wanting to suggest any substantive differences at the middle and high school level. We did not charge our fees this particular school year, and so we want to take the same fee schedule and move it forward into the next school year with 2 changes. The first change would be to remove the 4.25% service fee that we've been charging for credit card payments. And and that is good for the families. So it reduces cost to the families. And the way that we're going to handle that is that some of the software or programs that we've been using, such as Blue Bear, we've done a switch to school pay, which is less expensive. And so some of our cost savings, we're going to essentially return to parents. The other piece is we are moving forward with a really exciting one-to-one Chromebook program so that all of our students are going to have a Chromebook for their use. And we would like to include a technology deposit of $20 per year that is refundable. What I have asked Derek Brown, our Director of Technology, to give you just a little bit more information about sort of the why of that particular change, and make sure that we're clear about what that money's for. Derek? Oh. Well, it's quiet, so I will.
You're muted, Derek.
Oh.
There we go. Can you hear me?
There we go.
Awesome. Thank you. I was going on for like 20 seconds. I was almost finished. I just want to say thank you, Petra, and thank you, school board, for your investment in technology for our students. It's super exciting. We have the devices. We want to look for sustainability. I'll begin with, a little blemish. Last year, we spent almost $70,000 in repairs for our Chromebooks. And these devices were in school at the time. Now that they are home, and once we're back in the brick and mortar, our secondary students, middle school and high school, will be taking these devices back and forth. With that will be an increase in care and protection, but we are looking also for accountability and to help fund any of these repairs, lost power cords, et cetera. We are not the first school districts. Beaverton, Portland Public Schools, many local school districts and school districts throughout the country pass some of these costs on once a year. And as Petra said, that if at the end of 4 years, there is money left for that particular student, it will be refunded. So that's good news for our parents, very similar to our textbooks. And we will be keeping track of this through our inventory management system, which is called Resource Manager. So we will be tracking lost, stolen items, power cords, et cetera, and those funds will go toward those replacement or repairs. Turning it back over to you, Petra.
Thank you. So this is just as a reminder what our middle school fees have looked like in the past, and also hopefully moving forward into this next year. And you'll see the Chromebook deposit at the bottom. And the high school fees are also similar as well. Okay. So now we'd like to go ahead and take any questions that you might have about our proposal.
Thank you guys for that. If a board member has, can you please stop sharing so I can see Director Perez? Thank you. If the director has any questions or comments, please let me know and I will acknowledge you. Okay, seeing none. Thank you guys. Great presentation. Excited about what's Director Benaloga.
Director Benaloga.
I'm sorry. You do?
Sorry, Chair Ford. I just had a couple questions. So the processing fee that we are no longer charging, I'm assuming there is still, though, a processing fee. So is the district is going to absorb that? Is that the idea?
Yes, we are absorbing that through a cost savings that we have from moving from Blue Bear to school pay. And I know Gay Ellen is here, so if you want to hear more details, I have the big picture overview, but if you want to hear all the money details, I know that she can share.
I'm sure we'll be hearing it at budget. So that was just a question. And then as far as fees, I'm a little, excuse me if I'm not understanding it. Is it $20 every year? And then it's refundable at the end of the time that they're in the school, or is it refundable at the end of every year?
This is Derek. If we want to be the same, consistent with the way we did our textbooks. So it's my understanding that textbooks are at the graduation. So it would be at the end of the 4 years. Is that correct? If somebody, please correct me if I'm wrong. I see a few people shaking their heads. Yes.
So I want to clarify, the middle school fee will be assessed in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. If it's not utilized, it will be refunded at the end of 8th grade. Starts over their freshman year, freshman, sophomore, junior year, refunded at the end of their senior year.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. That was one thing I just wanted to be sure I was understanding it. And then, as always, do we have ways for our families that cannot afford the fees? Are there ways for those to be waived then as normal?
Yes, as usual, we work with families who need support.
All right, excellent, thank you.
Director McVeigh.
I will say thank you for not charging fees this year and getting us, like other institutions are now having to figure out ways in higher ed to refund those fees in the court of law, since they didn't have access to some of those programs. And thank you for the one-to-one Chromebooks. I know other smaller school districts like Oregon City were able to do this a few years ago. And we all know folks that there, we even had kids say, I wish I went to school in Oregon City because I could get a computer. And so another silver lining, I hate saying there's a silver lining in this pandemic, but the use and functionality and the ability to teach using a Chromebook got us to the next level. And so it's pretty exciting that we'll have a one-to-one ratio. So thank you.
Thank you, Director McVeigh. Maybe it's another opportunity since you don't like silver lining. Other directors? Okay, seeing none, I just want to echo what was said. I think as a parent who came here in different financial circumstances, those fees were pretty incredible. It was a meal for my kid. So I appreciate you guys finding a way to switch that up. It gives them back a meal. Okay, next on our, thank you guys. Next on our agenda is the 2021-2022 school board meeting calendar. And this is me presenting it according to our Oregon statute. We have to require times for our regular school board meetings and locations. And I'm going to read this verbatim just so I don't forget anything. This is only for discussion. It will come back on April 22nd for action. It is recommended that we have regular board meetings for 2021, 2022 that will continue to be held in a district boardroom or online if necessary on the 2nd and 4th Thursday of each month, with the exception of July, November, March, December, and March due to school break schedules. Board governance meetings have been proposed for August 12, 2021, October 16, 2021, February 19, 2022, and May 5th, 2022. This is just a draft proposal. Like I said, it'll come back April 22nd. Any questions from the board on that or comments? Oh, Director Bauer.
My only question was, I noticed July had 9th, 10th, 23rd, 24th as OSBA online conferences. So have they changed that, Sandra, from, they usually had one in November and July. So did they do away with November and they're putting it all in July? I just saw that as a change. Okay.
Yeah, so November, they may do an online. They haven't committed to any dates yet. And then
Okay.
July are online, and they're breaking it up into 4 different days. I have information I'll be sending to you for registration on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Yeah, is that it, Director Bauer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Moving to the next agenda item, which is an action item. This is the superintendent evaluation. Well, here we are again, the 9th evaluation of our superintendent. Our contract requires that the contract between Superintendent Matt Utterback and the Board of Directors states that the board will evaluate the superintendent's performance for purposes of improving school district leadership, maintaining open and effective communication between the board and the superintendent, enhancing the relations between the board and the superintendent. The evaluation shall be made in reference to the superintendent's position description as more fully set forth in district policy CBA and those goals and objectives established by the board in consultation with the superintendent. And as many of you know, this is our last evaluation for Superintendent Utterback. And so I want to give all board members a chance to publicly make their comments. And like I said, this is an action item, so we will move to action after that. Director Way.
Thank you, Chair Ford. Superintendent Utterback, I just appreciate you and your leadership, particularly last year and this year in dealing with an unprecedented pandemic and a crisis that has impacted so many families. And your leadership for our staff, for our school and community and students, as well as for every single board member really shone through. You were there to listen to many different voices, even voices that were not all the same, and voices that were very different from community to community, parent to parent, board members' voices difference at times. And I just appreciate you taking all of those things into consideration and making decisions that will help make our district move forward and progress, especially around equity. So thank you again. I think that is one of the marks of a true leader, is someone who can be bold in unprecedented times, as well as someone who I know in your heart you deeply, deeply care about the families and the kids and the community here in North Clackamas. And obviously that shows through by your decades of service in this district. So that wraps up my comments to you, and it's just been an honor just seeing you lead with a lot of humility, and especially in this time. So thank you again for all of the hard work and your leadership.
Thank you, Director Perez. Director Way, I'm moving forward. Director Perez, I'm thinking and I'm talking. Director Perez, let's hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I thank you, Chair Ford. I feel like I could stay here. I could sit here all night and say all kinds of great things about Superintendent Utterback. At the end of the day, I think it was truly a blessing for the children and families of this community to have Superintendent Utterback as their superintendent. I think more than they'll ever realize and know, especially with his work in the area of equity. Again, I learned so much in the short time I've been here on the board in terms of equity from Superintendent Utterback, and it's been an honor. And I believe he said that he's going to try to stick around, so I wrote that down in quotes, and I believe I heard him say that. I'm going to hold him to it every time I see him. Where you at? But thank you, Superintendent, for everything. You're going to be sorely missed, and you are tremendously respected and loved by all your superiors, peers, and staff, and all of the above. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Perez. Director Benaloga.
Yes, Superintendent, we've been so fortunate to have you here this year out of all of the years. But honestly, looking back at the last many years, almost a decade, the leadership and the elevation, right? The leadership and the elevation in the district, it's truly amazing. And I think one of the things, and I've said this before, that our community has become to expect transparency and communication. And sometimes that can be challenging because they've come to expect that, but you have elevated the community to understand that that's one of the things that North Clackamas wants to be, is transparent and communicate and get that information out to our families as much as possible. I think that it's a true testament to your leadership, and I know you'll be reading the evaluation and understanding how we truly all feel for the leadership that you've provided, for the care and the concern that you have for our community and for our staff. It's truly been inspiring to watch, and we have been so grateful to have you. And you will be missed, but I will also say that you have surrounded the district and you have surrounded the team with some wonderful people. You've filled it with some wonderful people, and they've learned from you and your tutelage, and the knowledge and the care that you've chosen your staff is going to be felt for years to come. So we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Benaloga. Director McVeigh.
Okay, I won't look at you. I can't. First off, thank you for helping shape the education model in this district. I have 3 kids that graduated from this district, and you've been here 32 years, so you had a piece of that. So thank you. Thank you for the last 8 years of being on this board. You, in your patience, everyone that comes on this board's green, and everyone gets below the governance level and wants to get into management. And you are so patient with us because we're all parents and community members, and we all have the best interest in our hearts, but we definitely often get in your weeds. And thank you for allowing that. And you know, you've pushed back, but more often than not, you let us tool around in there, and then you guide us. You guide us back up. You give us the balloons to float us up. I think of just a few. I mean, the closing of schools, property sales, bus stop eliminations or changes, boundary changes, curriculum adoptions, budget deficits, which there's been more than we wanted. But then when we've had budget surplus, you've returned a lot of money to taxpayers, a lot of money to taxpayers. And so it's been a wild ride for me in 8 years, but I can't imagine what you've been through. So I look forward to you being a citizen in the community and not having the the weight of the superintendent's office on your shoulders, and you can maybe breathe. And thank you for the staff that you've surrounded yourself that will continue to be here after you're gone. So thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Director McVeigh. Director Stradle.
So Superintendent Etterack, 32 years, 1 employment. Congratulations on that. My thank you is thank you for staying when the pandemic happened and extending your tenure and putting off your retirement. That was the best thing you could do for this community, and this community should applaud you every day for your leadership. Your leadership style. You're humble, you take everything on, and you have a great gift for finding talented people that you work with, and you elevate them so that they're each their own unique star, and they champion the needs of this community in the school system. So that is a blessing to this community and to us. Thank you for teaching me, putting up with me. I had lots of questions, I still do. But my best thanks I need to do is I need to look at the screen and say this last one, okay? To the Etterbach family, thank you so much for sharing all these years of not seeing your husband, your father, dog walker, and just the amount of time that he has been away. Enjoy him, pick on him, please pick on him for all of us. Superintendent Etterbach, thank you.
Thank you, Director Schradel and Director Bauer.
Thank you, Director Ford.
I agree with what everyone has said, and I've known you for a while. I've seen you as a principal, teacher. You've been assistant superintendent, and you've always stepped up, and you've always given more than 100%. But it's because you care. You really do care for every student. And I learned so much about equity from you and your visionary drive for this district. When you became superintendent, you knew what we had to do, and you encouraged all of us. And you gave us that opportunity to learn. And so I appreciate that. Quality schools are quality communities. And you were out there explaining that to our community. And it was great watching you at every levy and bond community meeting. Those are those long nights that our directors are talking about. And I was lucky enough to watch and accompany you to those meetings. And the investment in our buildings, so transparent, our oversight committees, and the people that you have attracted to work with you in this district, just inspiring staff that have helped my kids through become the best adults they can. And I see that with our children. So thank you so much. I can't be grateful enough.
Well, I will wrap it up, and just everything everyone said is perfect, and I think all that you deserve. I don't think that I've ever shared this story with you, but I will now. I moved here because I wanted a better education for my kids, and our first month here was hard. Then I went to a bond meeting where you were presenting. And I grew up in New York City. I never saw a superintendent close up, and I never thought I would. I was so moved by your commitment in that presentation that I decided to stay. Because through your words, I heard your care. And I heard how deeply committed you were to making this district successful. And I wanted my kids to be a part of that. And then later, watching you and just everything that you've done, and I wanted to be a part of supporting you. It was everything to me, because you are everything we need for kids. And every word you say and how you walk, you live it, you breathe it, you are it. And I'm just so honored to be able to be close to you and see it, because now I feel like when I don't see it, I really know it's because of you. So thank you for helping me build roots here and feeling good about it, and knowing that everything doesn't have to happen right away, but when you see a leader that is saying we're going to get there, you just want to follow. So super excited to have followed you through this journey. And I look forward to the next chapter, man, because you're still young. Still young. All right, so let's vote on this, that thing that we need to vote on, which basically is like a 9-year vote, I guess.
Motion to approve the North
Right,
Clackamas School
exactly.
Superintendent
All right,
evaluation
going round robin,
2020.
Director McVeigh.
Chair
I'm
Ford.
sorry, I will open the floor for a motion.
Chair Ford, Director Schradel, move approval of superintendent evaluation.
Excellent, been moved, properly moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Probably moved in second. Any discussion needed? Seeing none, Director Way,
Aye.
Director Perez.
Aye.
Excellent. Director Benaloga,
Aye.
Director McVeigh,
Aye.
Director Bauer,
Aye.
Director Strado,
Aye.
and myself is also an aye. Unanimously, we approve this superintendent evaluation. Thank you all. Next on our list is the virtual online program for 2021, 2022. Tiffany Shyman, are you ready for us?
Yes, I am ready. I am loading here. Just 1 second. All right, let's see here. Oh, it slipped out. Just 1 second. You should be seeing a slide that says the virtual online program. Great, excellent. It is, again, my pleasure to be here tonight. Tonight, I am joined by Virtual Online Program Administrator Joe Bridgman and Assistant Superintendent Shay James. Want to make sure that they're both here and give me a thumbs up that you're both ready to go. All right, excellent. We'll proceed through. I will start, then we'll move to Joe, and Shay will bring in for our close. Tonight, we're seeking approval of the extension of the virtual online program through the end of next school year, through June 30 of 2022. On August 13th of this school year, 2020, this board took action to establish a temporary 1 school year virtual online learning option to be called North Clackamas Virtual Online Program. And this was one of the many new educational program models developed, redeveloped, visioned, and revisioned over the course of the past year. Since August 13th, 2020, the North Clackamas Virtual Online Program has provided an education for approximately 550 students in kindergarten through 12th grade. I want to be clear before we move into the proposal tonight that the proposal here is for a temporary 1-year fully virtual online alternative to in-person instruction for next school year. The intention is to provide a temporary educational option for students in the midst of a worldwide pandemic who will be seeking an alternative to in-person instruction or who cannot attend school in a congregate setting during this time. At the conclusion of the presentation, we are all and will make ourselves available and will be seeking your action.
Thank you, Tiffany, very much for the introduction, and thank you very much, board and community. I'm excited to co-present this evening and talk a little bit about the virtual online program. I wanted to start by just telling you a little bit about the program and to give you a sense for what we're doing now and what it's been looking like since September. We have approximately 525 students. Those students are kindergarten through 12th grades, and they're coming from all of our North Clackamas schools and programs. Student learning is essentially a blend of both synchronous and asynchronous teaching. We're using the Edgenuity online curriculum. So while students log on and access the curriculum online through Edgenuity, they're supported directly with synchronous sessions from North Clackamas School District teachers. It looks a little bit different across the different grade levels. In our elementary program, it's structured very much like it would be in a brick and mortar building, in that we have a teacher with approximately 26 to 27 students. We have morning classroom meetings. We have synchronous sessions for the different content areas, individual support for kids, small groups, and different things like that. And then as we move into middle school and high school, you begin to see students take a little bit more responsibility, as you would expect as they grow up. And we move still with synchronous support for all of our students, but they do spend a little bit more time as they get a little bit older doing synchronous or asynchronous learning. One of the benefits to this program is that the teachers are available and ready to help students. We do a lot of one-on-one sessions. We do a lot of small group sessions and just a lot of support for our kids and families. The picture that you see is David Rubin. He's our 4th grade teacher. And I picked this picture just because it's a really good example of the amount of care and support our staff is giving our students and parents. David wrote a welcome song for all of our kids and uploaded it to YouTube. And we played that first week of school as just a fun way to say, welcome to this school year. Join our online community. So Tiff, if you could advance to the next slide. To give you just a sense for the type of students that are attending, our demographics look very similar to the rest of the district, although we do have a higher percentage of Hispanic and Asian students than the rest of the district on average. And special ed, we have a dedicated special ed team, but we do have a little bit less than the district-wide average, and our English language learner population compared to the district average is almost exactly the same. So what is student learning look like at VOP? I won't go into all of those different bullet points there, but I listed those just to give you a sense for, it's not really just students sitting at home watching TV or clicking through software. There are a lot of different ways that students interact with the Edgenuity software and interact with their teachers. There's a ton of synchronous support for kids that need it. Again, both whole group instruction and support, but also one-on-one and small group instruction. Our PE and health, our K through 8 students access PE and health similar to the way that our CDL students are doing it. And we are excited that we've added Spanish as a world language here in our 2nd semester. So we're offering Spanish for our middle school and high school students. So we're really excited about that. And that last bullet point, teacher and parent supported, really gets to the idea that there's a ton of flexibility and teachers and parents have the ability to support students sometimes in ways that they may not necessarily be able to in a brick and mortar setting. One of the things we did want to talk a little bit about tonight was how flexible VOP is. And there's a few things to keep in mind. One of the benefits to having an online curriculum is that students really can work at their own pace and they can access the curriculum anytime 24/7 that's convenient for them. This allows a lot of our older students to have jobs and still access the curriculum. It allows students to maybe sleep in or access the curriculum when they're a little bit more awake, or it's just a better time and fit for their family. And they also have multiple opportunities to demonstrate understanding because of that ability to access the curriculum on a 24/7 way. They also have very timely and individualized support from their teachers. And a lot of that is just teachers, because it's an online program, students and teachers aren't tied to bell schedules and they're not tied to bus schedules. So they have a lot more time to access each other and to support our students and our families through that. And I wanted to share the high school pass rate in that block down in the bottom. At the end of our first quarter, 85% of our classes had been passed by our high school students. And in quarter 2, we were up to 92%. And we're excited that we're supporting those students that hadn't passed with individual plans of support and different types of academic supports to help them pass those classes. One of the big things that's a real focus for our team is really a culture of care among our students and staff. And the 3 big areas that I wanted to highlight are those 3 green blocks. Academic support, how are we supporting our students academically? How are we supporting our students and families' social and emotional well-being? And how are we engaging our students and families? Beginning with academic support, that first picture you see there, that is Melissa Poff. She's one of our first grade teachers, and this was one of our material pickups. I believe in that picture, she was handing out some art supplies and some books, just one of the many opportunities that our students had to pick up materials that our teachers had gotten and put together for them. As we had talked about earlier, there's a lot of opportunities for one-on-one sessions with teachers and a lot of daily synchronous opportunities like our class meetings every morning, opportunities for small group instruction, a lot of support from our special ed and our ELD teams with those students. And we also have an academic intervention team that's made up of teachers and our school counselor and myself that help target interventions with students that may be struggling and help our kids to make as much progress as possible. That second area is really around social emotional support. How are we supporting our kids and our families? The picture you see there is from one of our family challenges. So we send out weekly newsletters, and often in those newsletters, I'll put in different challenges for our families. And this was an early fall sidewalk chalk challenge. And students have the opportunity, to, if they take me up on the challenge, that they can take a picture and send it in. And then I include that picture in the newsletter. And so we have different challenges like this that we do on a regular basis for our kids and our families to do at home. Fun projects and fun things that they can do at home. Other examples of social emotional support include our school counselor. We have a college and career advisor that's working individually with students, both in small groups as well as in larger groups. Getting back to those morning classroom meetings, our middle school and high school have advisories that meet every Wednesday mornings. We have virtual clubs, and one of the things we've been doing the last few months with our elementary students is a virtual lunch bunch. So I was in one of our virtual lunch bunch meetings in second grade earlier this week, and it was myself and the teacher and probably 6 or 8 of our second graders. We were having lunch together, and we happened to be playing Connect 4, and the kids were having a wonderful time just as an opportunity to connect and make some new friends, especially when your friends are spread across the district. That last box that I want to talk about is really how are we engaging our kids beyond simply that classroom and online environment. So the picture you see here was our virtual 8th grade egg drop. So Drew Purse, he's one of our middle school teachers, he put this on, sent out all the materials that our students needed to do an egg drop, and then got our entire middle school together. All of our students joined, and those students that wanted to do and participate in the 8th grade egg drop, they filmed themselves live with their experiment and then talked a little bit about the results at the end and what they had learned from it. It was a really, really neat experience. Kids had a great time. Also, in terms of how do we engage our kids and our families, going back to, we do weekly newsletters from myself, weekly newsletters from classrooms. We are doing follow-up phone calls. We have plans of support for many of our students that may be struggling. We're doing virtual clubs and activities. We're looking for all of the ways that we might be able to create a culture of care among our students and staff. We feel that that's a very, very important thing. Tiff?
Right. There we go. I'm having a hard time advancing the slide. Here we go.
All right, thank you. Good evening. So I will share with you that this year we had a limit of 550 students in our virtual online program. And as you just heard Joe say, we have currently 525 students enrolled. Next year, we're proposing to increase the enrollment capacity to just under 1,000 students. I do want to note that if we have more interest than spots available, we will look at opening up additional slots. So we have been very efficient and creative in managing the virtual online program budget and staffing needs this year. But as we potentially double enrollment, we'll need to increase our budget and staffing in a few places. And so this year we've been able to operate with 28 staff in total. That's including certified, classified, and administration. But we know that we've learned a great deal and with this new model, and we believe that we can operate efficiently in the program next year by increasing our staffing to 35.5 FTE. And so that would be what our proposal is with that. In addition, this year we worked with Edgenuity to pilot the curriculum at an extremely reasonable and very low price. They have been very good partners and business to us this year. However, next year we know that we will see a price increase for the curriculum, which is reflected on the slide. And we've been able to support our virtual online program needs such as professional development, planning, and supplies through our high school budget this year because of the learning modalities that we're in. But next year, we'll want to make sure that they have their own dedicated budget to support the needs of the program. And so as you can see, this is our proposal in terms of the budget and the needs that would be funded. And we are proposing that they would be funded out of our ESSER 3 dollars moving forward that are the one-time dollars that we'll be receiving.
So as we look ahead, this would be our tentative timeline, assuming that the extension was approved tonight. The first thing that we would be doing would be contacting current VOP families and determining how many of our families would like to remain in the system and continue with VOP next year. The next piece of that would be really reaching out district-wide, sharing the availability of the program, sharing as frequently asked questions, as much information as possible to give parents opportunities to ask questions and learn about the program, initiate an application process, initiate the staffing processes at the same time, and begin the lottery. All of that would take place beginning right around the week of April 18th. We anticipate the week of May 17th would be the end of the lottery, that by that point we would be able to determine and begin notifying families of open spots. And at the same time, we would be continuing to work with our staff, working through that process with our HR department. And then by the week of June 4th, we would be able to determine any kind of remaining slots and what that final structure would be like and communicate with those families and make sure that they are ready to roll into the summer and excited for a neat fall start.
So we're all available tonight for any questions you may have, and we'll be ultimately seeking your, we propose action for tonight.
Excellent. Thank you guys for that. Really appreciate that presentation and clarity, especially because we heard a little bit in the beginning. So I think it's a nice connection for us there. Please let me know that you have something to say, Director Perez.
Thank you, Chair Ford. I have a question for Principal Bridgman. I'm a big fan of social emotional learning, especially cultivating that in our children. I've always believed, always will believe that's fundamental before a child can even learn the academic. They have to have their social emotional learning addressed. So my question is, can you give me an example of how you carry that out, cultivating social emotional learning on a VOP virtual program?
Yeah, absolutely. I can think of a few examples off the top of my head. One of them would be just the lunch bunch that I talked a little bit about earlier in the presentation that happens on a daily basis. Our school counselor is in classrooms on a daily basis, also with lessons that she's connecting with different families. Our college and career advisor is reaching out and having conversations, especially with our juniors and seniors, and getting them thinking about what are their next steps in college and career. She also has a weekly newsletter and brings together families for different virtual activities, school campus tours, visits from different companies and things like that. So those would be just a few examples off the top of my head, how staff is trying to cultivate that community and that culture of care that I talked a little bit about earlier.
Thank you very much for that, Principal Bridgman, and for those examples. And I really I'll have to reach out one of these days. I'd love to hear more. I like the idea of the newsletter and activities to bring our families together. I think that's important, creating that village that we need. I believe all the time, every day, everywhere is having a village of caring and culture. So I look forward to reaching out soon or when things settle down with the pandemic. Thank you, Principal Pritchard.
Yeah, thank you. I'd love to connect. We had a lot of examples of some great family challenges. The other one I can think of that was really popular was we challenged students to fix meals for their family, and we got a lot of great pictures from some family meals. So I'd love to connect sometime.
Director Bauer.
Thank you, Chair Ford. I just want to follow up that this program is similar to our Clackamas Web Academy. Is that correct? Do we use some of the same curriculum, or?
I can jump in there if you like that. All right. So
and
it's hard to know sometimes how to jump in. So yes, it is in some ways, and in other ways, it's distinctly very different. In terms of curriculum, there has been some overlap and staffing model overlap.
Okay, but it's not CDL.
No.
So can you explain, I mean, how it's different than that? I mean, I think that was one thing that occurred to me when I was reading.
How it's different than CDL, or how it's different than Clackamas Web Academy?
I guess how it's different than CDL. Yeah. I mean, we know now we are, going back in the fall, and that will help with parents deciding what they want to do. But they need to know that this is not CDL. It's a virtual online. I think you gave a lot of information here, but can maybe in just a summary statement, or?
Yeah, I'd be happy to jump in if that's okay, Tiffany. I think probably the most significant difference between the online program and CDL is the curriculum and the instruction piece, in that VOP uses online curriculum. And so our students are logging in and accessing instruction and curriculum in an online format through Edgenuity, versus CDL, where the instruction is coming directly from a teacher. And there are advantages and disadvantages to both models, clearly. But we think one of the flexibilities that the online program brings is that students and families can access that curriculum 24/7, regardless of the time of the day. And that brings students a lot of flexibility, especially when we get into high school and we have a lot of our families and students that are working. It gives them a great deal of flexibility in their schedule that CDL doesn't necessarily provide.
Okay, and it's also our staff that is teaching it. And it was very popular in the fall when you had that choice, wasn't it? You had to turn students away.
Yes, to answer your first question, yes, it's all North Clackamas teachers, all certified teachers teaching. And yes, it was very, very popular. We had a rather significant interest and significant waiting lists at each grade level.
Well, thank you for adding to the choices for students and keeping our students here, because that directly impacts all of our staff and our resources. So thank you for your work that you're doing there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Bauer. Director McVeigh.
Thank you, Chair Ford. Two questions. First one, is enrollment static in terms of at the beginning of the year, or do we allow students to come in mid-year or at a break?
What we're asking for families for next year would be the same thing that we asked from families for this year, is that families start and commit to the entire school year. And that really is around staffing and the ability to staff a program without a lot of flexibility. One of the advantages we do have, though, is that it is possible to bring students into the program and get them up to speed fairly easy. So we could always look at ways to do that as we move forward as well.
And thank you for that. And my second question is there, do VOP students have access to Sabin-Schellenberg programs, or or is there anything Sabin-Schellenberg VOP programmed?
Yeah, so two answers to that. The short answer is this year, our students do not have access to Save and Schellenberg courses. We are hopeful that next year we're able to offer our VOP students access to Save and Schellenberg. It's a wonderful program, and we really want our kids to participate. What we did in August of 2020 is we recognized that our students or the VOP students would not be able to access Sabin courses. So I worked with Susie Peachin at Sabin and several of the Sabin staff members. And one of the benefits to Edgenuity is it does offer CTE online electives. And so we went through a process, VOP staff and Sabin Schellenberg staff, and matched courses that students could take through the Edgenuity software via VOP that would match up to Sabin courses as closely as possible. So if they were in a program, we did our best to create opportunities for them to remain in that program, even though that they were in VOP for a year.
That's great. Thank you.
Director Way.
Oh, yes, thank you, Chair Ford. I just have a couple comments and a couple questions. So at first, I'm just really glad that this alternative educational option exists for our students, particularly ones where the classroom setting might not be the best learning environment for them. So I'm really glad that, again, we are making progress around equity for serving all of our students and families in a different way. I wanted to ask a question around graduation ceremonies. So notice that the end date for this temporary program is June 2022. How do you imagine students being celebrated at commencement? Would it all be online still, or would it be a mix, or we're still planning that out?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. One of the benefits of being a program is that all of the VOP students are cross-enrolled to their current neighborhood school. So for example, any of our high school seniors that would be attending normally Milwaukee High School will have the opportunity to graduate from Milwaukee High School and walk with the Milwaukee High School graduation ceremonies. So their diploma, all of our students' diplomas will actually match whatever their neighborhood school is. So they'll graduate from Clackamas or Putnam with a Clackamas or Putnam diploma and have the opportunity to participate in those graduation ceremonies.
Awesome, great. And then my last question is around the ELD population that is being served. Do we know how many languages are currently, native languages are being spoken right now by students that are in the VOP program?
I don't have that information off the top of my head. Our largest language is probably Spanish. We have 46 or 47 ELD students in the program, and an ELD teacher and instructional assistant that support those students, as well as 2 Spanish-speaking staff members on staff that also help our ELD students. But I can get that information to you if you'd like.
Sure, I think it'd be helpful just to see what other support systems or, again, different instructional learning styles might be helpful in sort of closing that achievement gap for particularly ELD students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just before that, Director Schradel, I just have 2 questions for you. First and foremost, great presentation. I am a very big advocate of online schools, if no one knows that already. In particular, I love your examples, but for me, my commitment to it started when I was associated with the military. Military kids often are, when they have parents deployed, need other options. And the one thing I know about online education, it's a family affair. It is definitely something that the family has to commit to. And so what family kind of learning coach supports do you guys provide?
Yeah, I think it's really varied by grade level. So there's a lot of interaction between our classroom teachers and our families. We began the school year for the first 2 weeks or so. We made an effort and we met with every single family in the VOP program. And so every family met with their teacher at the K-5 level, and every family in middle and high school met with their advisor. And we talked through in those conversations a lot about how do you access the software, how do you access your teacher, how do you access our school counselor and other types of resources and supports. And so that has really gone a long way in helping us build relationships, I think, with our families. And then the classroom newsletters and the weekly newsletters, I think, has helped with that a lot as well. And then we do have virtual activities. I talked a little bit about like the college and career advisor with activities for families and things like that. I think that if that answers your question a little bit, as a former military brat myself, I definitely understand that perspective.
Great. And my second question, another part of my advocacy is sports. And so one of the things I know is a lot of times when kids are in online programming, sometimes they can or cannot be associated with sports. So students that do choose this program, what is their access level to an athletic team?
Yes, so our students have full access to any of the OSAA athletics and sports through their neighborhood school, as well as because choir, band, and orchestra are also OSAA sponsored events, they have access to those courses as well. So any student in VOP that wants to participate at Putnam in baseball or something like that certainly has that opportunity.
Excellent. Okay. We've been given this presentation, lots of information. We've also been asked to consider it going to action. I will at this time open the floor for that consideration.
Motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to extend the North Clackamas virtual online program through June 30th, 2022.
Properly moved. We have
to move it to action.
First, we need you to make a motion to actually take it to an action. So I'm going to not accept that motion. And I will open the floor for the intended action movement.
Motion to move from discussion item to action item.
Excellent. Been properly moved. Do I have a second?
Bowers, second.
My mic movement is not fast enough. Any additional discussion needed? Okay, we're now voting on moving it to action. Director Way?
I vote aye.
Director Perez?
Aye.
Director Benaloga?
Aye.
Director McVeigh?
Aye.
Director Bauer?
Aye.
Director Strado?
Aye.
And I am also aye. Now it is now an action item. I will open the floor for a motion.
Motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to extend the North Clackamas virtual online program through June 30th, 2022.
Excellent and properly moved. Do I have a second?
Bowers, second.
And properly moved in second. Any additional discussion needed? Director McVeigh?
Although the recommendations for the enrollment and the staffing levels are obviously great recommendations, I would hope that once we do a survey and find out what the needs are, maybe closer to next year's school, should it be startling that this isn't enough, that we would have a discussion that we might need to make changes for families that are choosing more of this option.
Okay, it's been noted. Any additional discussion? Well, seeing none, let's take a vote. Director Way?
Aye.
Director Perez?
Aye.
Director Benaloga?
Aye.
Director McVeigh?
Aye.
Director Bauer?
Aye.
Director Strado?
Aye.
And I am also aye. Unanimously, we have moved to have the virtual online program for 2021 and 2022. This is a huge deal. I just want to take a deep breath. There's a lot of things that we've learned from this year, and giving kids more options is definitely one. And so this is major. Congratulations to everyone. Good work. All right, next on our list is bid award, technology network equipment. We've heard this in our last meeting when we had discussion around it. Derek Brown, what you got for us today? Are we ready to make a move on it?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening again, Board Chair Ford, Vice Chair Bauer, board members, and Superintendent Utterback. It is my pleasure, and I'm pleased tonight to present the Technology Display Project. Oh, wrong one. Sorry, I have two tonight. I mixed them up. This is the E-Rate Award for network equipment, so my apologies. Tonight, going up first is the Technology E-Rate Award for network equipment. So excited, I got ahead of myself. It is the superintendent's recommendation to award the technology, I keep wanting to do that one, to award network equipment to CVE, and that stands for Cache Valley Electric, and not cash as in money, but C-A-C-H-E, Cache Valley Electric Technologies Group, for a total award not to exceed an amount of $479,913.84. And the reason for this consideration is to approve and provide schools with reliable and secure network equipment. The purchase is to replace existing and out-of-date equipment, and also for areas that are in need of expansion. And that'll be through heat maps and other assessments within our schools and surrounding facilities and other district buildings. The source of these funds is the 2021-2023 ESSER, which is the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Funds. The true cost to the district, because we're utilizing E-Rate, is a 60% discount, and that amount will be $191,965.54. A little bit of background here about E-Rate. We always go through purchasing and RFP processes, but for E-Rate, we utilize the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission's RFP process, which is much stronger than our local procurement. And we did that. There were two vendors that responded, CVE, Cache Valley, and Presidio. Pardon, I'm reading. I want to make sure I don't leave anything out. The internal team that did the scoring and evaluation of the vendors was yours truly, our network engineer, a technology low voltage electrician, and a representative from the purchasing department. And in conclusion of this agenda item, I am requesting your approval of the superintendent's recommendation to award Cache Valley Electric for network equipment. Any questions?
I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor for a motion.
Move approval of superintendent's recommendation to approve the E-Rate Award for network equipment to CV Technologies Group for a total award not to exceed an amount of $479,913.84.
It's been properly moved. I have a second.
Way seconds.
Been properly moved in second. Any additional questions? Just so the public knows, we did see this in full presentation at our last meeting. So let's go ahead and do a vote. Director Way.
Aye.
Director Perez.
Aye.
Director Benaloga.
Aye.
Director McVeigh.
Aye.
Director Bauer.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
And I am also an aye unanimously. It has been approved. Congratulations to all of our students who now get their devices and also fun stuff, fun responsibility, and also fun access all at one time. All right, you are still up, Mr. Brown. Technology display projects.
Yes, ma'am. I tried to do this one first. I'm excited about all of them, but this one, because it's going directly to the classroom, it's going to our teachers. The superintendent's recommendation is to award the technology display project to OETC, the Organization for Educational Technology and Curriculum, for a total award not to exceed an amount of $2 million. And the reason for this consideration is we have a baseline when we renovate a school, a building, or new construction. And that baseline consists of a display, 65-inch, for example, a keyboard, a document camera, and basic classroom technology. And so we did an assessment and walked all of our schools to determine which classrooms were without this display. There are over 550, and this also includes a Chromebox, which gets mounted on the back of the TV, and that will allow us to put a network drop in that you can either do it wirelessly, which we do today for streaming from the teacher's device to the display, and it will also include a document camera and a keyboard. The source of the funds for this is the 2016 bond funds. And as I mentioned, the background is we want equity in all of our classrooms. Our newer classrooms or classrooms that have been renovated have this display. We now want to bring, this is the baseline, we want to have them all at the same level. So I'm really excited to be able to kick off this project with your approval. And the goal will be to have all of these installed in our classrooms this summer. So when the doors open in the fall, every teacher will have this new display monitor, a Chromebox, a document camera, and a keyboard. As with all contracts, additional costs may be incurred for added or changed scope, such as orders for unknown items, unforeseen, or agency requirements. So in conclusion of this agenda item, I am requesting your approval of the superintendent's recommendation for the technology display project. Any questions?
Excellent. Thank you for that. Like you said, when the doors open in the fall, looks like a beautiful thing we'll have because the doors will open in the fall. So we'll go ahead and open up the floor for a motion. Anyone?
Bauer, I approve the superintendent's recommendation.
You can't approve. We need a motion.
Sorry, I move to approve the superintendent's recommendation of awarding technology display project to Organization for Educational Technology and Curriculum, OETC, for a total not to exceed $2 million.
McVeigh, second.
And properly moved in seconds. Any additional discussion needed?
I just want to say that this is a result of the extra dollars that we leveraged through the 2016 bond funds that we discussed recently at our budget meetings. And the parity issue is really important. So thank you for bringing this forward.
Excellent. Any additional discussion needed? There's just one thing I want to say. I checked with my street team, Mr. Brown. My street team is the kids in my neighborhood. And a lot of them are excited about this. There's one thing that they really every single kid mentioned was the fact that the adjustments for these screens were always too high for all the teachers, and they always had to call somebody to fix it. So we may want to lower that just so that doesn't interrupt the class. Like every kid said that. So just thought it was interesting. All right, let's take a vote here. Director White.
Aye.
Director Perez.
Aye.
Director Benaloga.
Aye.
Aye.
Director Bauer.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
And I too am aye, unanimously. Let's get these screens in the building. Excellent. Good work. Last but not least, Ron Stewart. Probably the most patient individual in the district. All right, bond bid awards. This is an action item, team. So Ron, what you got for us?
Thank you. Good evening. You sure you don't want to take a break? A little short recess?
You got jokes at 9:25 at night? Yeah, not funny at all.
All right. We're asking the board to approve awarding a contract to 2KG contractors for a total not to exceed amount of $3 million for the Clackamas High School West remodel project.
So we have 4 separate action items, everyone. So we need them each read separately, but I'll open the floor up for action item 1, which is the Clackamas High School West.
Director Benaloga. I move we approve awarding the North Clackamas School District's Clackamas High School West Remodel Project contract to 2KG Contractors, Inc. for a total award not to exceed amount of $3 million.
Excellent. Properly moved. Have a second.
McVeigh, second.
Properly moved in second. Any discussion needed? Excellent. Let's have a vote. Director Way,
Aye.
Director Perez,
Aye.
Director Benaloga,
Aye.
Director McVeigh,
Aye.
Director Bauer,
Aye.
Director Strado,
Aye.
and I am also aye. Excellent. Open the floor now for Happy Valley Middle School.
We're asking the board to approve awarding a contract to ASA Construction LLC for a total not to exceed $541,669 for Happy Valley Middle School project.
Excellent. The floor is open.
McVeigh, make a motion to approve superintendent's recommendation of approving an award for Happy Valley Middle School improvement contract to ASA Construction LLC for total award not to exceed $541,669.
Properly moved. Do I have a second?
Bauer, second.
Any discussion needed? I just want to say for the public, the board gets this information before we preview it, we discuss it in our meetings with the superintendent. So that is the reason for our swiftness many times, unless we need clarity in the moment. All right, moving to a vote. Director Way,
Aye.
Director Perez,
Aye.
Director Benaloga,
Aye.
Director McVeigh,
Aye.
Director Bauer,
Aye.
Director Strado,
Aye.
and I am also aye. Thank you. Next, we have Rock Creek Middle School conversion at Clackamas High School East. The floor is open for a motion.
Motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation awarding Rock Creek Middle School conversion at Clackamas High School East contract to Brockamp and Jaeger Incorporated for a total award not to exceed in the amount of $1,953,929.
Properly moved. Do I have a second?
McVeigh, second.
Properly moved in second. Any additional discussion needed? Seeing none, let's take a vote. Director Way,
Aye.
Director Perez,
Aye.
Director Benaloga,
Aye.
Director McVeigh,
Aye.
Director Bauer,
Aye.
Aye.
and I'm also aye. Excellent. Last but not least, Spring Mountain Elementary School. The floor is open.
And make a motion to approve superintendent's recommendation to award the North Clackamas School District Spring Mountain Elementary School project contract to Partech Construction, Inc. for a total award not to exceed the amount of $876,945.
Schradel, second.
And properly moved in second. Any discussion needed? Seeing none, let's vote. Director Strado.
Aye.
I shocked you, didn't you?
I was quick to respond.
Wake up, Director Bauer.
Aye.
Aye.
Director Benaloga,
Aye.
Director Perez,
Yeah, you totally got me with that one. Chair Ford, aye.
Director Way,
Aye.
and I am also aye. All right, it is all been done and approved. Thank you all. Thank you, Ron, for that. And thank you everyone for showing up this evening. Again, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. And I think we are progressing in the right direction. Thank you all.